Welcome back to Dynasty Road. This is Eric. We're going to be talking about all the different trades that have happened over the last week after our last video of the free agency frenzy. This week, obviously, the two big stories are the Deshaun Watson and the Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan just happening today on Monday, March, what is it? Today is the 21st. So on March 21st, Matt Ryan gets traded to the Indianapolis Colts. I think it's a great move for Matt Ryan. Feel like he still has some good years in front of him. This is probably one of his best offensive lines that he can play behind. The last couple of years in Atlanta, the offensive line hasn't been that great, and maybe not the same exact weapons on the outside. I mean, he has Michael Pittman Jr. He's got obviously Jonathan Taylor in the backfield who can catch, but they're going to need to get another wide receiver, maybe even improve on tight end. But I think definitely leaving Atlanta and going to Indianapolis for just a third-round pick. I mean, he went to the Super Bowl, Matt Ryan, and yeah, he lost. Fine, he lost to the Patriots, but you know, he's always had MVP seasons. He's always been top 5, 6 for most of his career in terms of quarterbacks. So he has the skills, and I think going into Indianapolis is just going to help that. And especially when you're thinking about dynasty and fantasy, where it's like maybe you already had Jonathan Taylor on your team, maybe you already had Michael Pittman on your team, maybe you had Matt Ryan, and you didn't have those guys together, and now you're all of a sudden your dynasty team looks different. And you're like, wow, I maybe was thinking about getting rid of Matt Ryan, you know, try to trade him for a second-round pick or another quarterback or try to improve. And now all of a sudden, here you go. He's a legitimate top 10 quarterback in fantasy this year. Dynasty, you know, we'll see what happens and we'll see how long he can do it for. But I think that makes Michael Pittman Jr. a lot better and a lot more productive. And Carson Wentz can only be an upgrade. It can only go up from there. It's like, you know, I mean, maybe Jonathan Taylor doesn't, you know, lead the league in rushing yards now because they have Matt Ryan who can throw the ball more and they can actually score. And I don't think it's going to be a bad thing. I think if you have any of those three guys on your fantasy team, on your dynasty team, you're very excited after today's developments. Now, conversely, you have Michael Pitts, like me, on your dynasty team. That hurts. Marcus Mariota is not going to be the same as Matt Ryan. You know, they went after they traded Matt Ryan, they signed Marcus Mariota. Pitts is just, it's going to hurt. Yeah, Cordell Patterson, yeah, he re-signed with Marcus Mariota there. Are they really going to have that same ceiling? Those guys definitely take a step back. They traded away, or they lost their number one linebacker, leading tackler and linebacker is now on the Jaguars. So their defense got hurt. Now you could sit there and say, well, you know, he was never a good run stopper or linebacker anyway, and you know, it's good that he left, or you know, we got rid of him, and so that hurts the defense. So now your offense has to produce more points, but with Marcus Mariota there, I don't think that's going to happen. But I think that does pave the way for Malik Willis. And granted, Carolina picks before Atlanta, and you never know what they're going to do. They might go Pickett, they might go Corral, they might go Malik Willis. But I really do believe that Atlanta is going to, if he's there, they're going to take Malik Willis. They have Marcus Mariota there as a bridge guy, either as someone who can back up Malik Willis as he goes through his first rookie season and be like, hey, look it, we don't mind you making mistakes. We understand where the situation is. Go out there and do what you need to do. We have Marcus Mariota there if things get worse, which they're still in a rebuilding process. But that if he does, or Mariota does start, Malik Willis has some time to groom himself, and that the second half of the year, he could be playing. So either way, you're going to see a rebuilding Atlanta. The other big news, obviously, was Deshaun Watson being traded to the Cleveland Browns. Not a big fan of this trade. In the terms of what they gave up, I understand Deshaun Watson is a tremendous talent. I do. But to give up 3 first-round picks, a second-round pick, a third-round pick, and then to sign Deshaun Watson to $230 million guaranteed contract, where the guy hasn't played since 2019. What is he going to do? And I understand that, the suspension part of it is still there too, and football shape is still there. So you're giving this guy, you're hoping that he's going to be in training camp. You're hoping that he's going to be in OTAs. You're hoping that he can do in the preseason and that he's not going to pull something for being away from the game for so long. And you still have to deal with Baker Mayfield. I think this whole situation is just a big mess. I think once the smoke settles and the dust just kind of clears and everyone kind of looks at what they see, I think, Amari Cooper with Deshaun Watson, they just franchised their tight end. Nick Chubb and Njoku, their running backs and tight end situation, they're going to get a bump up, obviously, with Deshaun Watson. And hopefully he can play and he can get the guys the ball and he can use Kareem Hunt the way that he needs to be used, and he can utilize these weapons. And I think, granted, when that happens, all these guys are going to work together and they're going to make a really good fantasy dynasty team. Granted, you don't know about the suspension. The Cleveland Browns have been bad for so long, and it's part of it is the ownership there. And it's like, you have Baker Mayfield, you got involved with the Deshaun Watson, you gave away all this money, you gave these draft picks, you still have Baker Mayfield on your team. And now you've kind of shot yourself in the foot with Baker Mayfield, knowing that you can't really trade him for the value that you should be able to get for him. No one's going to give you a first-round pick when Matt Ryan is going for a third round. On a kid who is ready to end his rookie contract, is already told he doesn't want to be there, there is another quarterback already starting there. You're not going to bench Deshaun and start Baker Mayfield in year one, and it's just a big mess. And so once that smoke clears, once everything settles down, I'll have a better take of what I think is going on with that. But as of right now, it's just too messy. It is just too messy. I don't really want anything to do with a lot of those guys if I'm doing a draft right now, especially just a regular fantasy draft. I think there's other guys out there that I think I'd rather take. Plus the other big news with free agency and trades and things. Woods getting traded from the Rams, being sent to Tennessee. Woods is a phenomenal talent. He can receive, but he's a great blocker. And, with King Henry over there with Tennessee and they wanted to pound the ball, Woods is going to help them. Woods is going to be put right into that spot. Obviously, it's going to take some time for him to come back from his injury. But once he's out there, once he's healthy, that blocking type of wide receiver that is going down the field, making Henry's life a little bit easier with the defensive backs and maybe some linebackers and stuff. Woods is going to fit nicely into Tennessee's scheme. That's a really nice pickup for Tennessee. And, it made sense for the Rams. They just signed Allen Robinson. They have Van Jefferson there. They have Kupp there. They're most likely going to sign Odell Beckham Jr. again as of today, Monday, around 6:30 Eastern time. It hasn't happened yet, but I think that's what's going to happen with Odell. Odell will come back probably like around Halloween-ish time, beginning of November, end of October, from his injury, and they'll be able to give him some time to come back and to be fully healthy. A couple of other smaller deals, Russell Gage going to Tampa Bay, which, it's a bump up for him if you have him on your dynasty team. You're kind of excited about that. You just hope that he clicks with Brady, because Brady, if he likes you, he'll throw you the ball. If he doesn't like you, you ain't getting nothing. He's not going to feed you. He'll keep going to Mike Evans and triple coverage. He'll throw it to you, and you could be wide open, for a first down, and he won't throw you the ball if Brady doesn't trust you. So hopefully Gage can earn Brady's trust. Obviously, that's a smart move because of Godwin and his injury and how he's coming back. Yes, he signed a 3-year deal, so he's not going to go anywhere. But Gage being there just gives them a little insurance and gives them another body until Godwin can come back. Then you have Juju Smith-Schuster going to Kansas City, which, it's only a 1-year deal, but I think it's a prove me deal. I think Kansas City likes Juju. I think he could fit in very well with the way Kansas City throws the ball, and they can utilize him. It's just, can he stop tick-tocking and being on social media and everything in order to get his head in the game, which, you don't want to think that, because there's a lot of guys out there that do it and they can still get their heads in the game. But Juju, is this too much of a distraction? And or is it a bad rap that he's just gotten because he just hasn't produced? And maybe it could be like the whole thing with Antonio Brown with Tyreek Hill, that they have that clear number one and Juju's a nice number two. And in that offense, he's almost a number three. But at least he's a number two wide receiver. He's not fighting with Claypool and Johnson and Washington, and then Freiermuth and Najee Harris. Like, all those guys can catch. And it's like, Schuster, he was kind of like in the bottom of the pecking order, or, there was always a scramble to fight. Kansas City, you have Hill, you have Kelsey, and now you'll have Schuster, because they were looking for somebody. They needed somebody else. Harmon does decent, but he hasn't really been the guy that they need him to be to step up. So those are a couple of nice little signings for them. DJ Chark going to the Detroit Lions. I think that kind of solidifies Amon-Ra Smith. Amon-Ra St. Brown, not Smith. Solidifies him as the number one guy right now in Detroit. They might draft a wide receiver, but it won't be one of those elite guys, because it'll probably most likely be in the second round that they're going to look for that. But they do need somebody else on the opposite side of him. So if you have him on St. Brown, you were very excited that the only wide receiver that they've gotten so far is just DJ Chark. Yeah, he can help out, but he's not going to steal away any thunder. Because DJ Chark, he was number two. The last 6-7 games of the season last year, he was wide receiver number two. Cooper Kupp was the only one above him. And so he had a phenomenal last 5 or 6 games. So he, going for 5 touchdowns, averaging almost 11 receptions, 11 targets a game, close to double-digit receptions every game. He had a tremendous end of the season. And so if you have him and you didn't see them going after, these big name wide receivers, you're very happy about that he's going to be the man in Detroit probably going forward now. So those are a few of the updates that we're going to be discussing. It's been a crazy offseason so far, but it's been awesome. You think about all the stuff that's been going on, and no doubt, I know my Dynasty teams have changed, and I look at them at the end of the year last year, and I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe I should get rid of this guy, let's get rid of this guy. And now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, he went to a different place, he stayed put, and they didn't add anybody, and he's over here, and they got a new quarterback there, and all of a sudden now you're looking at it going like, wow, this is just amazing. And no doubt your team has changed, and we'd like to hear from you and how your team changed and what you think about the free agency that's happened over the last 2 weeks, week and a half, actually. I mean, it started probably last Sunday, and it's continued until today, and a little over a week and a half that all this craziness has been going on, and we still haven't had all the guys signed yet, and we still have the draft coming up. So there's still a lot more happening, and we'll look forward to hearing from you. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to hear more videos, and we'll see you again.